Holy moly. Josh, thank you for telling me that. That is brutal. Yeah, I don't know how to handle that from here. Let me know that you can hear me now. Wow, that is quite the brutal deal. Man, I wish I would have known that earlier. I'm going to okay. All right. I'm just going to have to make a note or maybe somehow go back and clip off the first 15 minutes of this. This is great. I don't know, obviously you heard nothing. We'll kind of go back through just generally what I was saying to start. I'm going to basically restart the show and try to get out that first 15 minutes somehow, but kind of hard when you're doing a live show. Excited to get back into doing DFS soccer shows. We went through and did a lot of these, a lot of sheets and things back in the last World Cup, and then also the 21 Euro tournament was one of the better ones for me, and really enjoyed that. So really excited to get back into it. We're going to have projections and things for every slate. If you've not joined us, be sure to do so. Patreon.com/JagerBombs. You can get any of the packages, all sports, or the soccer package to get you through here through the World Cup. Lots of games this year with the World Cup. You've got many more teams, so definitely going to have some games that have bigger spreads, probably situations where there's maybe some more blowouts than in years past. I don't know that there's really going to be that big of ones tomorrow, which we'll get into. I kind of want to talk through our offerings on the sheet and how the setup is, and then we'll also talk about just kind of soccer DFS in general. The sheet's going to be set up much like our other sports. You've got the lineup page that breaks down team stats in general when the World Cup gets started, and then the odds of things so for each game, and then a summary of each player. This is the projected lineup. Of course, they'll be highlighted yellow here when we have the starters. That's another piece with the World Cup in DFS is that the games are very spread out, at least these first couple days. I know they're all spread out island games anyway, no matter what. But these games, especially tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern and 10 o'clock Eastern start times, you're not going to have the second game's lineups before the first one starts. So going to be very important to stay by your computer, stay by the sheet when I get that updated about an hour 20 before each game starts. I'll have highlights, of course, with the projected lineups in there for those later games, but definitely going to be kind of a moving target as the day goes along, some late swap opportunities, things like that. Want to briefly talk, like I said, about soccer, something we've talked about a lot in the past, where this is one of those sports where there's a kind of a clear delineation between cash and GPP for soccer. Cash games, you're looking for more of the safer guys, the floor play. They give you crosses, maybe shots assisted, things like that. I'll use an example quickly. For Mexico, Brian Gutierrez projected in. He's going to have a share of set pieces with Alvarado, 5,400. Both those guys, set up very well for cash games. Whereas you got a Raul Jimenez at 10K who's very goal dependent. So very binary type outcomes for him. Does he score goals? Does he not score goals? Rarely are you going to get. He'll have somewhat of a floor maybe from shots, but very much dependent on getting those goals scored. Now, he does have the best goal scoring odds on the slate, so there's kind of a balance you've got to mix in soccer DFS. But we'll kind of touch on that each day as we go through all the sheets, I'll have ranks and cores, or as we go through every game, I'll have ranks and cores for each slate. Projections will be up for each slate. So let's get into it. First game is Mexico and South Africa. Mexico is a minus 235 favorite. Only 2 games on tomorrow's slate, both pretty low overall totals. Mexico clearly the highest implied goals on the slate, 1.9. Mentioned Alvarado and Gutierrez having the cash game, set piece targets. That's the other thing with soccer DFS, set pieces, guys who are going to take corners, take free kicks, things like that, you got to kind of know who those people are for these teams. And as we get new lineups, maybe that changes if, certain guys are out or in. Alexis Vega is one of the guys who, if he's in for Mexico, he's pretty highly priced, but he would have a share of sets, very attacking type player. So Gutierrez and Alvarado, as this projected lineup, look pretty good from a floor perspective. Will probably be pretty popular. A lot of the Mexican players on the slate are going to be popular. Jimenez, I already talked about him briefly. 10K goal dependent, but best goal scoring odds on the slate, most likely to get a goal here. Quinones, 8,500. I think he's fine. And we're going to butcher names throughout this entire deal. So Fidalgo, he's pretty attacking, but he doesn't have a share of sets like Gutierrez. So I've got to rank Gutierrez above Fidalgo there. But, you can stack up Mexico no matter what. I think you can do a lot with that within here. Another piece of general DFS strategy would be defenders. There's different types of defenders. You've got the more attacking wing backs that are out wide, like Israel Reyes, Gallardo for Mexico, and then you got Vasquez and Montes, who are more of the center back type plays, who are going to be more centrally located. They're not going to have the floor of crossing and things like that. They will have maybe some shots off set pieces. So they may have a little more upside than some of these defenders. But they're very rarely going to get those goals. And, they're very volatile in that case. All defenders, of course, get the same clean sheet points if a team does get a clean sheet, but you got to watch out for those things, especially in things like cash games, to get your access to, get your exposure to the guys who are going to be, have more of a DFS floor. So Reyes and Gallardo, I think, are fine. Both very, fine prices. On the other side of that game, not a ton. Apollos and Mofo Kang look to have the set pieces for South Africa. I just don't know that I want to get to them. Maybe Mofo Kang. Lyle Foster is cheap, but he's one of the cheap guys who's dependent on a goal in a very bad with very bad odds to score, or for his team, that is, to actually get on the board. I think this is more of a 2-0, 3-0 Mexican win on home turf to get this thing started. I just really don't have a ton of interest in South Africa. This Aubrey Modiba looks pretty, what we would want for DFS, but he's listed as a mid, so he's not going to have any, clean sheet upside. Not that South Africa is going to have that, but you could play him. I wish he was kind of cheaper, but he is one of their wing backs, even though he's listed as a midfielder. Definitely can get forward, get crosses. Like I said, not really much interest in South Africa at all. The second game, pretty low total. You've got Korea and Czechia. Basically a pick 'em here. Plus 180, plus 165, 2.25 total, both projected to score about a goal. Got one of the better plays in Sun and Lee Kang-in. Both those guys have massive floors. They're very attacking. You're going to want exposure to them. I'm going to get back into playing some cash games like we used to a lot in soccer. Really, pepper that type of contest, and I'm going to get back into that for sure. In addition to some of these bigger GPPs, so Sun and Lee Kang-in are definitely two priorities for me. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see when we get into building, like, how do you mesh some of these Mexican players with like Sun and Lee Kang-in, with how they're kind of priced up there with some of those guys, even though they have much less of a goal scoring odds, but they have much better of a floor. I mean, you can see in their 19-20 matches over the last few years, Lee Kang-in, massive crossing. Both have goal upside as well, goal and assist. I mean, you're looking at very good plays here. Huang Hee-chan, 5,800. Probably goal or bust. I think he's more of a GPP play if you're going to get there. Huang In Biom is a guy who I've played in the past in some contests. 5,800 seems a little too expensive. In the midfield, when you've got Gutierrez and even Fidalgo, Lee Tae-suk looks pretty good. Looks to at least cross a little bit. 3,700 is cheap for some of these guys. Not really interested in anything else. Looks like Lee Jae-sung has had a few goals as well. More of GPP plays outside of Sun, Lee Kang-in, and maybe Lee Tae-suk. You've got Czechia, who probably the best defender play on the slate from a floor perspective. Soufal, who we've played a lot in the past. He seems to have a set share at least in most all of his teams he plays for. No different here, and he's only 4,400 at defender, so fills one of those gaps. David Jurasek is another guy who I think is a very good look at only 3,400. Some of those others are going to be more of the center backs, like Krejci, Hranek, Chalopek are going to be the center backs there, whereas Jurasek and Soufal are going to get forward. I was looking at some of the other projected lineups. Again, it's going to be pretty important, kind of looking at who is actually going to be projected, like SofaScore, because we're not going to have these starters. Soufal and Jurasek are projected at other places as well. So I think both of those are really strong plays. Maybe it's kind of one of those balances. Do you go full game scripting for GPPs, and play a Soufal, Jurasek, Kovar at keeper for Czechia against Korea, and maybe go a little lighter on the you can still play like Lee Kang-in for the floor that he's going to have, but maybe you skip, Sun there at 94, and maybe you do, if you have the salary, go up and play a Quinones or Jimenez for Mexico, and get the correlation of the clean sheet and the, maybe you're playing for like a 1-0, 2-0 Czechia win. Patrick Schick is another one of the more GPP targets. I wish he was a little cheaper, but 8K, I mean, he's got upside to score a couple goals here. Is that likely? No, but he definitely can do it. Sulk, I guess, 6,500. He's a fine, play as well. Provode. Both those guys are kind of secondary looks for me. If I land on them, I don't even hate to go to like a Provode in cash at 52. But again, still prefer Gutierrez. Suchek is a guy who always seems to find a goal. He's going to be more of like a center back type play. He's going to get, maybe a set piece goal, but he's not going to have much of a floor. 4,400 though, I mean, you can take a chance on him. Saladek or Sadilek could, 3,100 is pretty cheap for him in a midfield position if you need, the salary there. So definitely some plays in the second game. Only being 2 games, I think you're definitely going to obviously have exposure to it, but definitely some ways you can go. Just depending on the contest you're in. Like there's a $25, I think it is, for 20K tomorrow. if you're playing in that, you need to build game scripts. If you're playing cash, go get the best floor plays. Like I'll just give you 3 of them right now. Gutierrez, Sufal, Lee Kang-in would be the 3 guys that I start my lineup with for cash games. If you're playing GPP, do things like we just talked about. Build teams where you're building a good correlated team. Like if you're playing Patrick Chick, don't play the Korean keeper. Like if Chick does what he needs to do for you, this keeper is not going to do what he needs to do for you. If, even like a Chick Kovar Sufal combo is probably a good option. Chick can get, maybe one of these Sufal crosses for a goal. You don't have to play 4 plays for Czechia to stack them up. Same thing with this other side. I mean, Son and Lee Kang-in, maybe you can play both of them together. I think they're both going to have a very solid floor. But don't play Huang Hee-chan. Like it's not a good correlated team. Similar to the first game, like don't play Raul Jimenez with Ronwin Williams, the South African keeper, and definitely don't play Lyle Foster if you're paying up for Raul Rangel for Mexico, because you need the clean sheet win out of the Mexican keeper to get that done. So the more goal reliant players, if you're playing some of them, just don't play the keeper from the other side generally. If it's one of the super cheap ones, like maybe you could get away with playing Raul and Williams just because Williams helps you get to something else in your build at 3,800. And maybe he gets 5 or 6 saves to go along and only gives up 1 goal to Raul Jimenez. And that's kind of the route you go. But again, just think through this. It's almost like NFL DFS showdown. Like think through how you're building these teams and how you want to do that as you're building GPP teams. The cash games, the single entry even type stuff, smaller field contests, build the best teams. I mean, correlation is fine. I'm not saying obviously don't get away from correlation just because, but and don't spread out between every team just because. Like don't sorry, don't just play the Mofo Kane, Gutierrez. Like maybe in cash tomorrow you can get away with doing that. Play Mofo Kane, Gutierrez, Lee Kang-in, Sufal. You're playing all the set piece takers. Like, yes, that's fine, especially in like cash games, but even in single entry tournaments, like you do want to mix and match like kind of what you're doing. You want a good floor with some of these guys, but maybe throw in one of the upside guys, because in a small field GPP, you're going to need to hit something still in terms of goals. Like maybe you throw in Schick as one of your forward pieces over one of the Mexican forwards like a Quinones or somebody like that. But let's get this thing started tomorrow. I apologize. Hopefully I can get the message out there or get this somehow fixed about the first 14, 15 minutes being muted. I apologize for that. I hope you got some value out of this show. I'll be back tomorrow for Friday. I think we got USA on Friday, so excited for that. We're going to be back hopefully for every game of this World Cup, every match. We're going to break down. We're going to go through it from start to finish. Good luck to everybody tomorrow in this first, set of games. I'll be in the chat. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.